When getting into gold making, I didn't really know where to start, so here are some helpful tips for you beginners out there for gold making. Let us begin. Coming in at number one, we have the use of procs. Now, procs can be very handy in producing said materials and or items in general. Some of them are actually built into the actual profession itself, where, take for instance, cobalt bolts, and a handful of those can be produced at either 1 to 3 of those. This varies depending on the actual proc chance, but the material cost is still relatively the same. It usually averages around about 2 of them for a given one. However, you can get lucky and get more. When it comes towards other different types of proc chances, you can make use of something that I like to talk about a lot, and that is the Potion Master, Elixir Master, and Transmutation Master. This averages at around about 15% increase for the materials that you're actually producing. So say for instance, I decide to transmute a non-cooldown material such as titanium bars, and I can produce those at say 100, I'll end up with Transmutation Master attached to my Alchemist. I will get around about 15% increase, so 115 on average by the end of that production of 100. The material doesn't change, however I get more. Other different types of procs are for alchemy as well, which is the Silas Potion of Prosperity, which means that I get a little bit of an uptick. It is a 1.2 proc chance, so you're going to get around about 20% more potions when you have that active. This does, however, mean that you have to get to the tools of the trade for the Silas Sphere of Transmutation, and then hoping that you get the Silas Potion of Prosperity buff, and that only lasts for a little amount of time. However, you can keep pressing that for all but an hour and produce an hour's worth of extra flasks to sell on the auction house when it comes towards all of that. Other different types of ones is the 50% increase when it comes towards albino cavefish in order to produce deep stone oil, which comes at around about 50% increase, so 2 of those for every 1 albino cavefish that you turn into oil. This does scale quite nicely along with other different types of Potion Master and Elixir Master, but procs is something I would highly recommend looking into, especially if you're going in towards more of the crafting route. Coming in at number 2 is vendor cost reductions. Now, vendor cost reductions are just a blanket statement for, you got rep and you get a reduction in that vendor. Most predominantly is the Vial of the Sands materials. You've got the Pyrium laced vial, and you've also got the Sands of Time. They can be greatly reduced in cost for purchase in order to actually reduce the cost of the Vial of the Sands, making you more competitive. Now, this is just a blanket one and means that you have to get to the Oldham Accord reputation, get to around about Exalted, and then you'll be able to have the full reduction in that cost. However, there is a little bit of a trick because there's a lot of reputations and not a lot of people actually want to do that in order to reduce the cost even more. This is where I jump all the way over towards the Horde side of things, and this is where Horde really benefits from this type of thing, and that is Goblins. Goblins racial give the best deals anywhere. It literally is called the best deals anywhere, and what it does is it means you don't need to go farm rep. It just gives you a flat reduction on everything. So Frozen Orb, Sands of Time, Pyrium Laced Vial, all the other different types of things that you have to purchase for gold making, for crafting and or other different types of things, you just get the reduction and it just works really, really well. So a Goblin, it's probably a good way to roll Horde, and make sure that one of your characters is literally a Goblin, and then you get the best deals anywhere for that vendor cost reduction. Following on to that, at number 3, we have the gold versus time. So a lot of people actually talk about this, and it's around about gold farming in general, or even crafting. It depends on how much time you're willing to spend for the gold that you're actually getting. Now, the most common of which is a gold per hour rate, and the gold per hour rate is cool. So 20,000 gold per hour, cool, that's okay. However, Take, for instance, I do the battered hilt farm. It's on my daily routine. I do it every morning I wake up, and it takes me around about 17 minutes. Now, for every 3 lockouts, so that's 30 runs, I get roughly around about 2 battered hilts. That's pretty dang good in the grand scheme of things, and it averages around about 20 to 30,000 gold. Now, if we actually extrapolate that over the amount of time that I'm actually getting, we'll go with the benchmark of 20,000 for every 2. For 20,000 per one, that means I'm getting around about 40,000 gold for less than an hour, but the lockout is 17 minutes. So it takes me 17 minutes to do the run, but I've got to wait an hour in order to redo it. So it's about valuing your time and what is most profitable long term, instead of just hardcore farming for like 3 hours and such. It's mainly gold versus time is just the way of, do you value that little bit of time over a long period, and it will actually gain more for you than you would an hour's worth of farming a material or something to that effect. It's things like that you need to bear in mind. At number 4 is, don't forget the old world. When it comes towards old world crafts or old world farms, a lot of people are really happy to just jump onto the current expansion. Now, don't get me wrong, new expansion's awesome. You get to find new materials, new farms, new crafts, everything. Wow, cool. Everyone's still jumping on that. That's the funny thing. The bottom line is, old school crafts still sell, and I make a lot more gold with old school crafts than I do new school crafts. That's mainly because there's less competition and I can produce a bulk load of it for relatively cheap, as the materials tend to drop down and all that stuff. It makes it more profitable for me. So long term, I win with my old world stuff, as well as doing current stuff. But it's just a nice little reminder in that little tip of, look at your old world stuff, like your crafts. For old school transmog, like the Sulfuron hammer, you craft one of those. It may not sell today, it may not sell a week, it may not sell a month. However, it didn't cost you that much to produce, and you're going to get that return no matter what when someone needs it, when they get the Eye of Sulfuros. I myself actually went ahead and bought one the other week when I got the Eye of Sulfuros, so I could get my legendary. But that being said, don't forget the old world, because there is a ton of different types of materials and or items that can be crafted from transmog, and there's old school farms that can net you in some good gold as well. Following on to that, at tip number 5 is the Gnomish and Goblin engineering. I'm throwing this in there because no one really talks about this, but you can get the gyroscopic world spinner and the Kyperium rocket. Is the depleted Kyperium rocket, to be said. Those ones are just 2 factors of multiple other different types of things you can craft with your Goblin and Gnomish engineering. 2 engineers with both of those, and it just works really well. It's a nice little uptick, and most people forget about this. So try and think about this. It's one of those things not many people do. However, you can always craft the parts to actually complete said quest and just keep producing them as well in order to make gold, because people always want the Goblin and Gnomish engineering so they can craft their things. However, you can also craft the mounts from that and all of the other different types of things to go along with that. That is a nice little uptick, especially if you're an engineer, in order to produce more and gain more gold, just by fulfilling the need of either those mounts, which are not engineering restricted, and also the requirements for completed said quest. It works really well in that grand scheme of things. At number 6 is high ticket items. Now, high ticket items, yeah, granted, it's a high ticket item. Battered Hilt's a high ticket item. The big red ray gun is a high ticket item. The dwarven dice. Yeah, things like this. Don't forget those. So these high ticket items take a little while in order to sell. However, if you focus on those high ticket items, when they sell, you win big, and you can have your daily routine, but try and go for those high ticket items, especially if you're trying to fulfill a WoW token every single month. Because if you're willing to put in the time, you'll be able to pay for your WoW token in no time, especially if you do things like the Battered Hilt or Dwarven Dice, and fulfilling all of those different types of ones. And just having like at least 2 of those. So you could go for all of the different types of dice, Worn Troll dice, loaded Gnomish dice, the Dwarven dice. You can farm 2 of each one, put them on the auction house, go farm Battered Hill, get 2 of those, shove them on. They're all high tickets, they're all selling for good gold. Then go get your Seal Tome of the Lost Legion with your Warlock, get 2 of those, put them on the auction house. And when they sell, it won't take you that long in order to post on the auction house. However, everything you do have on the auction house is high ticket. So when you gain a sale, you gain a sale, mate. It's just one of those things where focus on those high tickets, especially if you're getting started into gold making, because it really is it's also very satisfying when you get that one sale that just pops up and you're like, oh, I just gained 40k. Nice. It's one of those things that it is a tip, but focusing on those high tickets really does help just boost your gold overall, especially if you farm multiple of high tickets, so you get like 2 or 3 and then just move on to the next one. Don't play around, just go move to the next one. Tomes of Polymorph, all that stuff. It just really helps that methodology of just going for 2 or 3 of the same item, get those, put them in the auction house, go get the next load on your list. That's how I would go about doing it, especially if you're trying to gain a load of gold really fast. Coming in at number 7 is volume. Volume does matter, however, you're going to want to do it sustainably and you want to do it profitably. So find something that actually works, and much like I said with the high ticket items, you can also do this with like medium tier items as well, and even low, but I don't really focus on low that much anymore. When it comes towards everything, volume's going to matter, as you'll be able to expand the amount of variety on the auction house, and that will pull you in more gold. This does not mean that you sell everything that you have on the auction house, especially if you've got like a 10 gold bracer that you found in Ragefire Chasm and you're trying to sell that. Don't bother, just get rid of that. But focus on gaining a volume of good items. And I know that sounds silly to say, but a lot of people actually forget, and even I forget sometimes. I'm just like, oh, I'll just put that on the auction house, it'll be fine. And then like 2 months later, it's not actually sold or anything. So volume does matter, but it's what you are producing volume of. It's the same with like flasks. You're not going to create 2 flasks, post them on the auction house. You want to create like a good chunk of flasks for a decent profit and then sell those on, especially on a raid night. That's how you make decent gold. And following on to that, at number 8 is consistency. When you're doing your daily practice, your daily routine, I went over my daily routine just a couple of weeks ago, and mainly consistency is key. I have a simple routine of farming and crafting of a mixture, and that works. I may add to it, I may tinker a little bit, but the whole process, I'm not going to just scrap or stop. You're going to want to do it find something that is profitable and just do it every single day. And eventually, over time, you're going to make gold, and that consistency can be transferred into pretty much anything. It's the same with farming for a mount, for instance. If I wanted the blue Plato Drake, I would farm it every single day if I really wanted it. And it's things like that. You just want to stay consistent with everything that you're doing and just make it into a nice little daily routine. Like, you come home from work, you log on, you do your routine, then get on with all your other stuff to do with WoW and just enjoy the game. I do that, and I'm able to pay for my sub, and I'm able to pay for the new expansion, and yeah, it just works, and I just get the gold coming in as and when. It just works, and over time it really builds up in the grand scheme of things. Now, at number 9 is my little phrase that I like to talk about, and that is simple, repeatable, profitable. Now, when I'm evaluating a gold farm or a crafting method or any form of gold making method in general, I ask myself, is it simple? So make it really simple for me to understand. If I do X, I get Y. So yeah, it's like, is it simple? Is it really, really simple? There's no complex over exaggerations. I want everything to be really, really simple, because then I'm not boggled down. I can just go numb and just go at it. The majority of the time, the most simplest thing is usually the correct thing. So simplicity for your gold farming method, that whichever one you choose, whether that be pets, transmog, materials, whatever, make it simple, make it repeatable. So can you do that every day? Can you do that every week? And just keep doing that. And then, is it repeatable? Yes. If so, then keep doing that and following that cycle. If it ticks all the boxes, simple, repeatable, profitable, that's probably a good gold making method in order for long-term gold. However, it is mainly what you pick which will determine over that long span of time in order to make gold. Now, I could really say something to this effect. I could go to YouTube. So for YouTube, I've been posting for 7 years on gold making for World of Warcraft. It makes me happy. I enjoy it. I really love gold making, and obviously I've made worth it and everything to go along with that. I truly love gold making. However, what happens if I put all that effort into something else? It probably would have produced another outcome. I don't know what that outcome is. However, I know what the outcome is for this particular boat, and yeah, it's picking something that will be your clear target direction. So pick an abstract goal or target to do with your gold. So like maybe the 2 million gold spider mount. I want that, and then you can work towards that, and that's your little treat for getting there, or something to that effect, or even paying for your WoW token. And that's simple, repeatable, profitable. You just got to keep going at it. And to finish it off is the cycles. For the last tip for gold making is cycles. So everything comes in cycles. Material prices expand and go up in price. Other crafted items go up in price, decrease in price, depending. And it always fluctuates in a cycle. We could take a given week. We know that just before reset, everything is at their lowest for materials. And then you want to buy out that, then to do your crafting on patch day, especially if you're doing current content stuff, and then selling that. Another way of looking at it is patches and expansion releases. Those ones increase the price of crafted items, so it's something to bear in mind on cycles. Keep an eye out for which different types of cycles happen in your general area. I'm talking from experience with crafting in this sense, as I know that on expansion releases and always patches, that materials and items generally go up in price, and right before is when you should probably buy those materials because they're probably at their lowest. This goes for resets as well, but not as heavy. So it's something to bear in mind, especially if you are a crafter. Other than that, that is my 10 tips for gold makers, for newbies, and maybe a refresher for gold makers in general. Other than that, have an awesome rest of the day, and I shall see you in the next video, which will be soon.